Hey, I want to jump right into this. My name is Trent Shelton. I'm talking about PMA, Napoleon Hill's principle, positive mental attitude. And I know it seems so simple. Oh, positive mental attitude, cool, I got that. But do you really? And I want to dive a little deeper in these next 19 minutes, so I need you locked in. I'm going to give you some common sense so we can turn into some common practice so you can live a legendary life because it's available to you. If you're already living a legendary life, guess what? There's another level to your legendary life that's available to you. So with your permission, I just want to be real. I want to be honest. This is no keynote speech. This is a conversation between me and you right now. You see, when I think about the words PMA, it brings me to my principle I talk about in my book, Protect Your Peace. That principle is shift your perspective. Your perspective can either be one or two things, my friend. And be honest with yourself and real with yourself. Your perspective can either be your prison or your power. What's a prison perspective? A prison perspective is the perspective that sees everything working against you. And let me back up a little bit. A perspective is how you see the world. Nobody controls your perspective. Things can influence your perspective, but your perspective is your choice. It's the lenses of how you see the world. You can control that. But some of us, we have a prison perspective. I was guilty of that. When I got cut from the NFL, my perspective was poor. I thought my life was over. That's all I ever knew. That was my everything. I ain't never tried to even work a job. I ain't never even grabbed the application. Since I was 5 years old, that's all that I knew. So once that got stripped away from my life, my first thought was my life was over. That prison perspective. I went into blame and complain mode like so many people do, that BC mindset. They point the finger at everybody else and they don't take responsibility and accountability. 5 words changed my life that shifted my perspective to my power. I looked in the mirror and said, Trent, it all starts with you. And I want to tell you right now, if you want to take max ownership over your life, you want to take max accountability over your life, tell yourself those words. It all starts with you. No matter what happens, you tell yourself, give me the ownership. Because when you give yourself the ownership, guess what happens? You give yourself the power to change that situation. You see, experiences don't have meanings. Experiences are meaningless until somebody gives it a meaning. That's why you can have two people go through the same experience and one people says, oh man, this was boring. This concert was terrible. The other person is turned up at the concert. It was live. Same experience. Just two different outlooks, two perspectives, right? Two different meanings. And so when you understand, you can cut it off right now, don't though. But when you understand that you're in control of the meanings, it changes everything because now you can have the meanings work for you. I love to say this quote. If you want to live a more meaningful life, create better meanings in life. If you want to live a more meaningful life, create better meanings in life. What does that mean? That means that every time I go through the experience, I'm going to ask myself this one simple question. This is what I do. So I want to give you this gift. I ask myself, Trent, what is this going to mean? I don't say, what does this mean? You might say, Trent, it's the same thing. It's not. For a lot of us, we say, what does this mean? And we still in that prison perspective. We still in our past. We're going to talk about 3 sets of lenses. That's going to be very powerful in a few seconds. We still in a certain set of lenses that don't help us see goodness in the world, or things working for us, or things that are happening to us, but they really happening to us for our good. We don't see it like that. So what does this mean? When I left the NFL, my life is over. This means that the highlight of Trent's life is over. There's nothing more to my life. And I was telling myself that. And guess what I did? What you feed your mind will grow in your soul. What you feed your mind will grow in your soul. So I was feeding my mind, my life is over. I didn't have a PMA. I had a negative mental attitude. I had a blame mental attitude. I had a bad energy mental attitude. It was all of that. And I was feeding myself this same old story, your life is over. And listen, it was the truth at that time. But I want to tell you right now, just because it's true at that time doesn't mean it's the truth for your life. I'm going to repeat that so you catch that. Just because it was true, yes, it was true. My life was over with football at that time. Football was over, not my life. But it wasn't my truth. My truth was my life isn't over. There's more to my life. But I kept feeding myself that story. I kept creating that meaning. When you create that meaning, you know what's going to happen? You're going to, what I call, find emotional support and evidence to justify that meaning and to justify that truth and make it more real for you. Oh, yep. People walked out of my life. I knew my life was over. Yep. No more teams are calling me. I knew my life was over. Yep. My phone is dry because now people can't benefit off my life. Yep. I know my life was over. So I was over analyzing everything, not realizing that ending, that painful ending was creating a beautiful new beginning. You got to realize that, my friend, because I don't know where you're at in your life. Maybe you don't need this. Maybe somebody you know needs this, but in life, most times it takes creating a painful ending to create a beautiful new beginning. Your current situation is not your final destination. There's always more to your life. But at that time, I didn't want to believe that. And I remember sitting in my room at my parents' house because I was broke, $200 to my name. I remember looking around my room, looking at the trophies, seeing the pictures of my newborn son, seeing a picture of my best friend that committed suicide, freezing cold in my room because I liked the cold under the blankets. The train behind my house, hearing it go by. And I remember asking God this question. Man, is this it? Is this all it is to my life? And before I can even think about an answer, there was a certainty in my soul. I don't know if you ever felt that before. It was a knowing in my spirit that said, yeah, this is it for this. But your life is just beginning. Yeah, your dream ended, but your purpose is just beginning. And in that brief moment, I shifted my perspective from my prison to my power. I didn't say anymore, what does this mean? I made up my mind. And I want to tell you right now, there's nothing more powerful in this world than a made up mind. If you make up your mind that your life is over, you're going to believe that. But if you make up your mind, your life, you're going to seek that. You're going to find the evidence. You're going to look out and start seeing things working for you, start seeing better alignment. Even if your circumstances don't really change, your energy changes. And that's what happened for me. I told myself in that moment, no more, what does this mean? I said, what is this going to mean? And that shifted my perspective from my prison to my power. I'm going to say that again because it's a very few adage of words that changes everything. It goes from you putting the power in that situation's hands and you taking your power back and you telling yourself what it's going to be. I said, what is this going to mean? Not what does this mean no more. What is this going to mean? And it meant that my life was just beginning. It meant that me getting cut, me getting fired was the greatest blessing in my life. It meant that door closed so I can walk through another door that's really meant for my life. And I'm fired up about this, and I get chills talking about this because now 15 years later, I'm one of the top speakers in the world. 16 million people follow me across the internet. And it's all because that door closed, and it's all because I made in my mind that there was something more to my life. I want you to understand three things right now. Life is less about, this is positive mental attitude 101. Facts. Life is less about what happens to you and more about how you respond to what happens to you. You see, that's that positive mental attitude. No matter what comes my way, I have made up my mind on how I'm going to respond. I'm going to respond with resilience. I'm going to respond with a power perspective. That's how I respond. That's how I'm responding. Make up your mind. When my mother died, as hard as that was, and it was tough and it's still hard, I made up in my mind a long time ago. No matter what happens in my life, I'm not going to allow any situation to break me down, to bring me to rock bottom, to cause me to quit on life, even though I wanted to. There was something inside of me that wouldn't let me because I made up in my mind how I'm going to respond. So when my mama died, I made up my mind, I'm going to respond with resilience. I'm going to respond with greatness. And her death is going to be the greatest thing that ever happened to my life. Even though even though it's hard for me to talk about it right now. The reason I say her death was a gift is because it taught me really how to live. It taught me how to appreciate. It taught me that you are on a ticking clock, bro. The greatest person in my life is no longer here. So I realize even more I'm going to love my kids harder. I'm going to love my family harder. I'm going to go for my business harder. I'm going to do everything harder because I realize that this is the reality. And I'm not trying to put fear in your heart, but I'm trying to put reality in your mind. So I already knew how I was going to respond. If I didn't know, I would have quit and gave up because that was the hardest blow to my life. And then losing my grandmother a few weeks after that, then tearing my Achilles a year after that. On paper, I should have quit and people would have understood. But I made up my mind, I ain't never quitting. I ain't never folding. What about you? Number 2, life is less about what happens to you and more about the meanings you give to what happens to you. We just talked about this. Create better meanings. Create meanings that serve your spirit, that serve your peace, that serve your growth, that serve where you're going. When you create better meanings, it will change your life. What is this going to mean? That's the question that you need to ask yourself in every situation that happens in your life. Somebody walked out of your life. Yep. What is this going to mean? Somebody quit on you. Yep. What is this going to mean? Man, we launched this idea, this product. It didn't do. What is this going to mean? And create a meaning that serves your future, not your past. The last question that I want to tell you, our statement, is this. Life is less about what happens to you, more about how you use what happens to you. I think with positive mental attitude with Napoleon Hill, I think this is it. Is that for me, I'm going to use everything. I use football to build this life. I use me getting fired from football to build my purpose, right? I'm using everything to create something better for my life. I'm not going to allow my pain to use me. I'm going to use my pain because I understand if I use my pain, I can create power. I can get stronger because of the things that I went through, because of my struggle. Are you being used or are you using it? Because that's the option. Life is less about what happens to you and more about how you use what happens to you. We got 7 more minutes. Lock in with me because I want to talk about something very important. There's 3 types of perspectives that you can live in. 3. Remember, perspective is your lenses of how you see the world. The first perspective is your past perspective. You see, a lot of people never go for their dreams, never go for the big idea, never go live their purpose because they live in shame and guilt. You see, they see in life through the lenses of shame, through their past, who they used to be, the mistakes that they made. We're all human. I'm not on here to be perfect. I'm far from perfect. I'm not on here to impress you. I'm not on here to make me look like an expert. None of that. We human beings, we all got struggles. Some people just hide theirs better. But I want to say, just because you made some past mistakes doesn't mean your future can't be great. Just because you made some past mistakes doesn't mean you are one. We all make mistakes. Just because you had some bad chapters doesn't mean your story can't end well. We all got bad chapters. To me, that makes a great story. I'm not telling you to go have some bad chapters purposely. But some of us, we never go for our success because we're being guided by shame. Let it go. That's who you used to be. So what? You made a bad business deal. So what? You fumbled an opportunity. So what? You did this. Forgive yourself and move on from it. You got more life to live. You got more opportunity coming to your life. You got more ideas to give to the world. You got more greatness to create. It's available for you. So what I need you to do is take off those past lenses. They're outdated. And I'm even say this on the other side. Some of us, we got these past lenses and we feeling ourselves from last year, from 10 years ago. My coach told me this in high school. He said, Trent, you can't win today's game off of last year's championship. He says, every single day, you got to come here and prove yourself. Some of us, we still worrying about what we did last week, yesterday. Staying neutral is one of the most powerful things that you can have, right? Appreciating your wins, but don't get drunk off success. And some of us, we still got our past lenses on. We still in 2020. We still in 2018. We still in last year. And sometimes things change. We haven't adjusted one bit because you got your past lenses on in a positive way, right? In your eyes. Well, I'm looking at things from a positive way, Trent. But now life is passing you by because you still stuck here. It's like the person that's still talking about, and nothing wrong with it, right? But I'm talking about the person that's addicted to talking about their glory story, their high school championship. Nothing wrong with that because I talk about my high school days at times too, but that ain't the basis of every word that comes out my mouth. But some people still there. That's a great moment that happened. But bro, that was 15, 20 years ago. What we doing now? You got to retire those past lenses. The second set of lenses that I want you to get rid of is your pleasing set of lenses. And this one is huge. Some of us, we're operating this world to please everybody. We're allowing competition to guide our life. We're allowing competition to be the pace of our life. I would challenge you to be loyal to your pace, because when you're not loyal to your pace, you enroll yourself in a race that you aren't meant to run, and you burn out trying to keep up with everybody else, trying to keep up with their pace when you're not meant to keep up with their pace, trying to do what they do because they doing it when you're not meant to do it yet. Right? When you're just starting off and you freshman, you're trying to do it at the varsity level. Nah, take your time. Your pace is meant for you. To some people, you might look fast. Some people, you might look slow. Oh, well, run your pace. That helps you run a more efficient and more purposeful journey. But you got to stop pleasing everybody. That's mission impossible. The first step to being unhappy is trying to please everyone else. When I got out the business of impressing people, my life became rich. Some of us, we are bankrupt financially, bankrupt spiritually, emotionally, because we in the business of impressing people. Doing things we don't need to do to make people care about us that don't even care about us. Trying to impress people that could give a damn about you. Trying to impress people that won't even be at your funeral. Trying to impress people that will never even say a prayer for you. If we're trying to please social media strangers, take off those pleasing lenses. And I want you to put on this set of lenses. See, this lens is the lens of a true entrepreneur. This is the lens of somebody who creates true impact. This is the lens and the pursuit, oh man, of somebody who lives a legendary life. You see, a legend is just an ordinary person that's extraordinary at something. That's it. We all breathe the same. We all use the toilet. I'm going to say the same, right? We all do the same stuff. We human beings. We came in this world the same. We going to leave, right? We got an expiration date. A legend is just an ordinary person that's extraordinary at something, that's masterful at something. That's it. That's dedicated their life to something, that's intentional to something. That legendary person, that legendary life has on those power lenses. No matter what happens in their life, they see everything as their power. No matter what goes on, they see everything as their power. They take full responsibility over their life. They take full responsibility over their choices. They live a life of commitment. They live a life of consistency. They understand opportunity costs. They understand if it's not moving them towards it, then it's keeping them from it, and they don't do it. They are very diligent in their approach to daily life. That has to be you. When you have a positive mental attitude, you live in your power. You keep those power lenses on. Yep. Even if things go wrong, you still see the right in the things that go wrong. Even if things working against you, you smile because what's meant to work against you, you're going to use it to work for you. Even the things that's meant to destroy your life, you're going to use that thing to create something special in your life. That's the power lenses. You walk in your power, you speak your power, you live in power, and you let nothing take your power away. It's time for you to go live your best life. Why? Because it's available to you. But like I said in every single video, podcast, message, it all starts with you. Let's have that PMA, that positive mental attitude for life. It's rehab time.